bright.
Oh, it is. Wow. No, I think that, I don't know, whatever. Okay, Kaya, move your big fat butt. I think it's just because I'm already so white. When I get in here, it's like, are you ready?
Yep.
Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Nope. Yes, there's a cat.
Sure is.
Kitten's terrible. We are here today to do our top books of 2015 video. We're not gonna do, yeah, do you like my sign? Ermahgerd Berks.
Toby!
Toby!
That
spray bottle.
Be gone, cat.
Be gone, wannabe.
Stop playing with that thing.
Be gone. So we're here today to do our top books of 2015. We didn't do a top 10 or top 15 list because neither of us read a lot of books this year. How many books did you end up reading this year?
I don't remember. Not very many.
Not
like
very many.
15 maybe?
Yeah, so if we did top 15.
Yeah.
We did top 15. That would be all the books that Jeff read. So I think Jeff picked 5 and I picked like 7.
Why?
I don't know.
You said 5 and then you picked 7.
Yeah, I had a hard time narrowing it down. But you know what? It is what it is. So without further ado, we're gonna get into it. Would you like me to go first? Yep. Okay, so mine are in order.
Mine aren't.
My number 7 book I don't have a physical copy of, and that is I'll Give You the Sun by JANDY Nelson. This was a contemporary book and it's from dual perspectives of twins, and it kind of goes back and forth in time. It is so good, and I know a lot of people love that book, but that was my number 7. Highly recommend I'll Give You the Sun, JANDY Nelson.
Okay, I'm gonna do mine in order. So number 5 for me, The Book Thief by MARKUS ZUSAK. My books are kind of all different. That's
fine.
The first. I feel like everyone's already read it, so do I really need to say much?
It's like a historical fiction told in the perspective of death.
Yeah, but you're not letting me do it.
Well,
you're doing it.
You go ahead then.
Alright, so basically, it's a historical fiction about this little girl who likes to collect books in Nazi Germany, and it's about her story of survival, I guess, kind of deal.
She befriends a
Jewish man.
And it's told in the perspective of death.
Yeah, so it's told in the perspective of death, which is really cool.
It's awesome.
Not typical read for me, but it was really good.
Are you glad you read it?
Yeah, it was one of Jamie's recommendations,
Talk
so.
about that later. My number 6 book is To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. This one is a young adult contemporary about a girl who writes love letters to all of the people that she's ever had crushes on in her life, and they accidentally somehow get sent out, and then so it's her kind of dealing with all of these guys coming up to her being like, you loved me? Say what? Anyways, it's amazing. If you love young adult contemporary or contemporary at all, this book.
How many people does she love?
Like
hundreds.
No, not hundreds.
The whole town.
No, it was not that many. So
Small town Montana. She loves them all.
That's my number 6. Well, you may as well just come and be in the video if you're gonna be like that. Oh, I didn't mention this in another video, but in case you don't follow me on like Twitter or Instagram, funny story. Our little Toby here is not a boy. Are you, Toby Flenderson? Nope. Now her name is Toby with an I, and yes, my friend, she's a girl.
Toby with an I.
A fun surprise from the vet, wasn't it? She couldn't find your goodies.
Yeah, your goodies.
Your goodies were missing. She's the cutest. Moving on, Jeffrey, what is your number 4 book?
I'm doing this on the fly, so. Number 4 is another first for me. Not a typical read for me, it's a manga. Dragon Ball Volume 1 by Akira Toriyama. It was my first manga, and it's friggin' unreal. It was so friggin' good. Like, I love Dragon Ball Z, whatever. I'm a nerd. Cool. If that's what you want to call me. But first time I ever read Dragon Ball, so the original series, and it's awesome. It's funny, it's actiony, it's kind of vulgar, it's just really good. Get into it. And if you want to try manga, try it.
Yeah.
I wasn't done yet. Okay,
because you never interrupt me when I'm talking. I was just going to say, if you want to know, why are your hands so cold, or why am I so hot?
I don't know.
I'm like sweaty.
You were just in the shower.
Like hours ago. Anyways, so I can't just tell if you're cold or I'm hot. So if you guys want to hear more of our thoughts on these books, you can just watch our wrap-ups from the year because we do talk about them a little bit more, but you know. My number 5 book is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. This is the second book of the Throne of Glass series. I friggin' like this book was even better than the first one, and it was just like so many things happened. It was very intense. It is a fantasy book about a lady who's an assassin, and that's all you really need to know. I'm not gonna give a synopsis of the second book, but I love it. It's so good. Okay, what's your number 3?
This is close. 3 and 2 are close. It's a wash.
A wash.
Next one, Patrick Rothfuss, Slow Regard of Silent Things.
Ari.
This book is about Ari from, or I don't know.
Ari.
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 Ari, how do you know?
Because I listened to the audiobook.
Alright, it's about Ari from Patrick Rothfuss' Kingkiller Chronicles. And it's a very weird book. And I know a lot of people hated it. And I loved it because it is super unique, and Ari is a really weird character. So obviously the book's going to be really weird because it's all about her and her life.
It's just a novella. It's a side story.
Yeah, it's a little novella. I loved it. And I feel like there's two, you're either going to love it or hate it. So if you start reading it and you hate it, don't bother.
Don't bother finishing it.
It's not going to...
Cut your losses.
Yeah, it's not going to come around for you. I loved it from the beginning, but even Patrick Rothfuss says, I think he says it in the novel, he's like, you probably aren't going to like this book. So, at least he like warns you, but for me it was awesome. But I understand that a lot of people probably wouldn't like it.
My number 4 book is The Martian by Andy Weir. I listened to this one on audiobook, and I'm telling you right now, this is the best audiobook I've ever listened to. This is an adult, it's not sci-fi really. I mean, he's lost in space. There's a movie about it, which we still haven't seen, but it's about a man, Mark Watney, who is lost out in space, and it's him having to try and survive on Mars until he can maybe get rescued. I don't know if he does or not. Well, I do, but I'm not going to tell you. I love this book. I recommend the audiobook because it makes Mark Watney's, is his name Mark? Yeah, it makes Mark Watney's personality like shine. So, highly recommend the audiobook. 5 out of 5. Amazing. Amazing.
And number 2-3, again a wash.
Yeah.
It's the first in the Night Angel trilogy, Way of Shadows by BRENT. This is the bind up of the 3, but
you've only read the first one.
I've only read the first so far. It's about a kid, and he's kind of like riff-raffed at the beginning. He's in these like little like clans, kind of like these kids are in kind of like little groups, and he wants to be an assassin, and someone comes along and they interact, and then the development of the story happens from there. It's, if you like fantasy, it's unreal. Yeah, just the world is really unique, and it's really easy to connect with Azoth, who's the main character. For me, the world is awesome, and the characters are perfectly described, so you really find yourself connecting with them. I rambled on there.
A little bit.
Just kind of did.
That's okay. My number 3 book is, I wish this had a dust jacket because it makes me upset that it doesn't. Anyways, my number 3 book is Wise Man's Fear. I got that from, yeah, you got this from the Owl's Nest, and you, for some reason, it was only $8 though. Yeah. But it doesn't have a dust jacket. Anyways, my number 3 book is Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss, which is the second book in the Kingkiller. What?
Let me interject for a second. Did I have another copy of that?
No. Yes, and you gave it away. You had the nice, like, because you wanted the hardcover one, but you had like the matching one to your other book.
I like the hardcover.
The dust jacket though?
Yeah.
Anyways, is the second book in the Kingkiller Chronicles series by Brandon Sanderson.
Nope.
I don't know why I said that. I just said Patrick Rothfuss. Anyways, this book was amazing. I loved it, like, even way more than the first book, which I also really enjoyed. I like this one better.
Wow.
Like, the way the story went, it's a fantasy, you know.
Recommendation.
It was a recommendation from Jeff, and it's a fantasy series about like this guy who's in a university to learn kind of like this magic, allomancy, is that what it's called? Basically, this story has so many different parts, and it's almost like a story of someone telling their story. So there's like 2 parts to, I don't know. Anyways, it's just full of adventure and excitement, and there's a little bit of love in there. And I personally love it. If you are looking to get into like a big fantasy type book. I think if I can do this, then you can do this. So I absolutely loved it. So good. That's my number 3. Okay, so I'll do my number 2 next, and then we'll both be on our number 1. My number 2 book is The Book Thief by Markus ZUSAK, which was of course also on Jeff's list, but mine was much higher. We already went over what this is about. I listened to this one on audiobook, and next to The Martian, I think this is my favorite audiobook, probably my second favorite audiobook, just because of the way that it's told, like through Death's perspective. I thought was like crazy interesting, and I don't know, it's just so good. And we watched the movie, and we quite enjoyed the movie as well. So, number 2. What's your number 1?
My number 1, and it's by far the best book I read this year. It's
huge.
Well, it's huge. Let me see how many pages.
A lot of girth.
1,001 pages. I have to go back and think about books and see what would be in my top 5, but I would think this would be in my top 5.
Of all time.
Of all time. It's Brandon Sanderson, Way of Kings, book 1 of the Stormlight Archive. I don't know how many he's putting out, but yeah, like, just to give you an example.
How many are, there's 2 out so far.
There's 2 out right now. Words of Radiance is out as well.
Did you haven't read that one?
Yes, I have.
Oh.
I like this one better than Words of Radiance. Word of Radiance is really good, but there's a character in this book called Shalyn, and the second book is pretty much told from her perspective. Her story has come along, but when I was first reading it, I wasn't really a fan of her character.
He described her as the Sansa.
Yeah, no, she's like the Sansa. Just to the fact that I didn't like Sansa Stark. So anyway, but she's come along, and now I enjoy her storyline. But anyway, so unreal good. Like, I cannot describe to you how good this book is. It's just something you have to pick up and read yourself. I'll give you a little bit of premise. So basically in this one, there's these pieces of armor and swords that have kind of been lost through time. They're called shard plate and shard blades. Yeah, okay, makes sense. But they've been kind of lost over time. They've been found by different kingdoms, and people fight over these, like, because they pretty much make you invincible, like. But there's lots of other stuff going on. But it's kind of like Game of Thrones in the fact that it will tell each chapter from a different character's perspective, and they're all enveloped in this one world, and eventually they all come and start to intersect, and it, oh my god, Brandon Sanderson is just a magician. Like, if you're looking for a fantasy book that you want to kind of get into,
I would say if you're already into fantasy books.
Yeah.
That's not a good one to start with.
No, and not because the story's not good, but the length would be a bit of a difficult thing, I think, for some people. But if you like fantasy and you haven't read this yet, like, stop everything you're doing right now and start reading it.
Stop the presses.
It's phenomenal. I couldn't put it down. There hasn't really been a book since probably like Harry Potter, maybe, when I was a kid, that I couldn't put down like this one. You know when you get those books and you know you love it because you start thinking about the characters when you're not reading the book, and you're like, oh my god, what's going to happen next? And then you have to go read it to find out. That's that book. Oh, wait a second. What's this one coming up?
Okay, so we're on to my number 1 book of the year. And my number 1 book, Jeff is excited because it was a recommendation from him, but it was The False Prince by Jennifer A. Nielsen. This is a middle grade fantasy book about the orphan boys who are taken in to be trained to possibly impersonate a prince who is lost. And it's so good. Like, it's so good. It's such a quick read. I did guess the twist at the beginning because
I already told her.
Jeff told me before,
but she said she would have got it anyway, not like me.
I would have got it. I know I would have. So this one is amazing. It's so quick. It's really short, and I can't wait to read the second and the third one. It's a trilogy, and if you have not read this one yet, I definitely recommend. And
that's the book we've been kind of like, everyone's like, what should I read next year?
False Prince.
Been saying False Prince.
So good. Okay, so we also made a list of a few of our least favorite books of 2015. We'll just go through these really quickly.
Bedwetter. I've already talked about it.
Yeah.
Bedwetter by Sarah Silverman.
Just not good.
No.
Yeah.
To me, it was just kind of junk. Oh, this one's going to surprise a lot of people.
Probably not.
Other least favorite, Darkest Minds by
Alexandra Bracken.
It's one of Jamie's recommendations.
I thought he'd like it.
I couldn't get into it. Just struggled through the whole thing.
That's a book, though, that people, I feel like, either really like or they really don't like. Like, I didn't love that book, but I did really enjoy it. So
I just drew a lot of parallels to my least favorite book of all time, which is The Road.
It's not that bad.
Kids are on the run and that's all they do the whole time they're running. It just turns into this relationship thing, and then there's a little bit of a love triangle, and I'm like, you could have saved me with some cool magic or some cool abilities, but they're not that cool. They're not. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
First one I have is Girl Online by Zoe Sugg. I heard a lot of people say that it was really, really good and really cute, but I just found it to be too teeny. I don't know. I listened to the audiobook and I just had myself rolling my eyes a bunch. Like, it was cute and it was like good, but I don't know. It was a pass for me. The next one is All the Bright Places, and this is by Jennifer Niven. I had really, really high hopes for this book, and I was very disappointed. I just found the main characters to be kind of annoying, and if you know me, you know that if I don't like the characters, I don't like the book. Like, I usually can't get past that. If I find characters annoying, I just can't. So that was a big disappointment for me. Next one was Finding Audrey by Sophie Kinsella. Sophie Kinsella is like one of my favorite authors, and this was a young adult book from her, and I just found, once again, the characters I didn't like, and I couldn't get over it. So I listened to the audiobook, and I was very disappointed. I think I only gave it like a 2 out of 5 stars, which for Sophie Kinsella, I'm usually like at a 4 or 5, so I don't know. I know a lot of people really liked it, but it wasn't for me. Finally, I have Until Friday Night by Abby Glines. I think this is actually part of a series, but it's about a girl who is a choice mute. So she chooses not to speak, but everybody else thinks that she's just a regular mute. And of course, she meets like this popular boy and blah, 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 blah. Anyways, I just didn't like it. Like, I just straight up, I didn't like the writing, I didn't like the characters, I did not like this book, and I know a lot of people really like Abby Glines, but you know what? Nah, she's not for me. Those are my most disappointing and least favorite books of the year. I only did 4. So, those are our top books and our least favorite books of 2015. Let us know down below. Which ones were your favorite?
Which videos you like us to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling.
Alright. Oh, I don't know what kind of accent that was. I don't know. Let us know down below what some of your favorite books of the year were, and maybe your most disappointing books. We would love to know.
Sometimes my favorite thing to do is to watch your hands.
I know, you say that all the time.
They're everywhere.
I can't help it. I'm a hand talker. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like what you see, please subscribe. We hope to see you again soon. Say goodbye, Jeffrey.
There it is.
Bye.
Drum roll.